Vlog 001. Today I'm going to tell you about my encounter with alien, extraterrestrials, whatever you want to call them, interdimensionals. Not too sure of their location, so I'll call them aliens, for lack of a better term. Okay, this is one of my earliest memories, not my earliest memory, but it is one of the earliest memories. We're talking about a time frame between when I'm kindergarten age and earlier, and a lot younger than kindergarten age. So I'm not sure which event I should begin with. If I should give it to chronological order, that might make most sense because this is a tell-all vlog, and we are starting my origins and earlier memories being my alien encounter leading to present time. So maybe I guess we'll start with chronological, even though it might be better to keep them together for like sake of category, but I'll just go with my earlier one. Back when I was younger, I was in my bedroom watching TV. I was wide awake, not even tired. I've always been one who would be up late at night and not sleeping. And to give you perspective of how old I was, to try to narrow in the time frame, because I don't have the exact date of when this happened, it was before my brother was born. So me and my brother are 3.5 years apart. So if it's before he's born, and I know for a fact that he wasn't born yet and he didn't exist on this plane in a physical form, that would put me at 3 to 3.5 at max. So, and the fact that I don't remember my mom being pregnant at the time either, that means, or not showing it, I should say, that means I have to be 3 years old, or younger, but no older than 3.5 for narrowing down the timeline. Okay, so I was in my room watching TV late at night. Everyone was in bed. My mom and dad were sleeping. I'm sitting there, and out the corner of my eye, I see something standing in my door frame. So I go to turn to see who's standing there. I turn, and for lack of a proper description, it was a reptilian. What I mean by this is it was a humanoid shape, but it had reptile-like features. The head was a full-on reptile-ish dragon, snaky looking head. So it was just standing there looking at me with a blank type of expression. And I was like, what in the world? I was like, how's there a dinosaur person? That's the best way I can think of it now to be, or later when I was trying to reflect on what it is, but at the time I didn't know what it is. I'm like, what is this? And it was just standing there. And then it slowly backed up and went into the hallway. Now the hallway was dark, and my room was dark because the only thing on was the TV light, and it was late at night, so the whole house was shut down. And I was like, well, let me go follow it. I went into the hallway to follow it because, of course, that's what you do. When something suspicious is in your doorway and it disappears, of course you follow after it. Well, that's what any kid would do. Well, that's what I did. I went to follow to see where this lizard reptile person went, and I couldn't find it. I went into the hallway, and there's no sign of where this reptile person went. I don't know, but it was standing there and watching me for quite some time until it backed up slowly and left. I didn't feel threatened. I didn't feel scared. I was curious. I would say would be my biggest emotion or feeling. I was curious to know what it was, who it was, why it was there, and then when I couldn't find it, where did it go? Event number 2. Some time has gone by. Again, I can't really narrow down how much time and when this is, but I can narrow time. It was, my brother was alive now, but I don't believe he was school age yet. And I don't think I was in school yet either. So maybe I'm 4, maybe I'm early 5, because I believe you start kindergarten when you're like 5 maybe. I don't know. But anyways, that's the time age range best way I can try to narrow it down. Okay. Only my mother and brother in the house right now. My father's at work, working a late shift. It's late at night, so my brother's sleeping or taking a nap on the couch in the living room, and my mom's on the other bigger couch in the living room. We were in the living room for some reason. I don't know why we didn't go to our beds, or we didn't have a bedtime at that time. Maybe they just fell asleep in there. I don't know the details. All I know is we were in the living room. My brother was on the couch in front of me, and my mother was on the couch to the left of me. And I was on the couch that was against back of the wall. We're in the living room. From my spot, we can see the dining room to the kitchen, to the hallway, to the stairs. And now these stairs, it'll be like there's the platform and there's a banister going up like this, and then you can see there'll be like a place where you could kind of look, but your view would be obscured because it's almost perpendicular. Anyways, I'm sitting there, I'm wide awake, not asleep. Like I said before, I can always stay up late. I've just naturally been a night owl, as they would call it. And I noticed something in my peripheral vision on the steps, so I went to turn and look, and there were two heads peeking around the corner. If this is the corner, the head would be like this. Now, what heads am I talking about? They had big heads, grayish, turquoisey, but mostly predominantly gray more than anything, and big eyes. They were the grays. You know, I mean, at the time, I didn't know what a gray was. I didn't even know what aliens were. It wasn't until years later that I was on the History Channel, and they have shows about aliens and UFOs, was when they were talking about the grays, showing artist renditions and people's stories. And at that moment, that's when I was like, everything in me, like, almost froze when I had that revelation that the things I saw before were these so-called aliens that come from space, and all these crazy, terrifying stories that people tell about abductions, and they just really try to put you into the most ultimate fear and have you stun locked. And all those emotions came flooding on me when I was like, oh my goodness, I was seeing an alien. But anyways, at the time, I didn't know it was aliens. There were two of them. There are two grays, big black eyes, ominous shape, big heads. I could show you a picture because I did draw them later on. I don't know if I'll insert that picture in this video or if I'll show you at a later time. If you want to see, I don't know, maybe I won't show you because this is a tell-all, so maybe it's safe to show. Anyways, there are these two aliens looking at me, just staring at me, peeking around this corner, staring. I went to look at my brother and mother, and they were still asleep. It was only me, and they were just gazing at me. And I almost got up. I don't know why I didn't get up and go to them and just walk to see why they're standing around the corner peeking down from the stairs at me. But for some reason I didn't. And the split second that I was eventually going to get up, they moved their heads back around the corner, one by one, almost in unison, but slightly staggered. And they were gone. That's it. That's all I recall for that event. I don't recall what happened after, and I don't recall really what happened before. Who knows, when people tell these events, usually they tell a missing time, and who knows what happened beforehand or afterwards, if anything happened, or maybe that's where the event ended. But all I know is these two grays were just staring and watching me. Event number 3. I was lying in my bed late at night. Now this next event, maybe you can chalk it up to sleep paralysis or dream within a dream if you really want to be skeptical. Personally, I do not consider that because these other two events I just told you about happened when I was wide awake, so why couldn't this event also be when I was wide awake? All I do know is I was in my bed. Maybe I just woke up because I wasn't sleeping, but I was lying in my bed, I know that. I looked, and there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's not it. Keep on counting up until 12. My bed was surrounded by 12 of these grays. They're looking down on me, all standing around my bed, And I actually counted them too, because I was like, one, because that's what a kid would do. And I counted them, and there was 12 just staring, looking down at me. And they were all various sizes and shapes and heights, but they are still pretty much the same build. The typical big head, grayish skin, big eyes. The typical look, what you think of as the Greys. They weren't naked, they were wearing like an Under Armour look. Now, I don't mean they were wearing Under Armour like athletes and they had the little symbol. What I mean is like they were really form-fitting, like skin-tight clothing. They weren't naked. That's the best way to put it, And they were just staring at me, and I was like, oh my god, because it I'm like, why is anyone in my room? Usually not expecting someone to be in your room, and being a kid, I quickly threw my blanket up, and then pulled my blanket back down. They were still there, so I knew I was wide awake, and they were just looking at me. I believe I repeated that process, and they were still there, and then next thing I know, that's it. That's all I remember. I don't remember what happened afterwards, and I don't remember anything besides that. All I remember is these 12 aliens looking down at me, surrounding my bed. Okay, that's all I know. Don't know what that was, don't know why that happened, but that's what happened. Them watching me and staring at me. So, those are my personal alien, extraterrestrial, interdimensional, whatever you want to call them, type of stories. Later on, I did find out from various family members that they were having encounters too with these beings. At the time, no one talked about it because I guess no one wanted to be deemed crazy, or as a kid telling these stories, maybe I just didn't tell them, they didn't listen. But it wasn't until everyone was talking that they said, well, you know what? And everyone started sharing their stories and events, what happened. And then I realized that I wasn't the only one this was happening to. Why this was happening to me, I don't know. Should I share those right now? I feel comfortable sharing my own events because they're my own personal stories, but should I tell the stories of other people? I don't know, not unless I have their permission, right? Or maybe if it was concerning me too, because it kind of was, I should. Maybe as backstory. Maybe I'll mention these story now, right now while I'm recording, and I'll have a talk with these individuals, and if they tell me not to, then I'll go back and edit this video and like cut it, so therefore that story won't be a part of it, and that's why you'll see a cut and go to the next segment. However, if they don't mind, then, or if I don't mention it to them, then this segment will just keep on running and just ignore what I just said. Okay, so those are my personal events, but maybe perhaps before I go on, I'll give another one. This next event that I'm going to tell you is going to give a little bit more backstory and just might give you something weird again. You're free to believe what you want. You can believe I'm a nutcase, a crazy person. You can believe I'm lying or exaggerating. But for me, really, I have nothing to gain from these stories except for finally letting the world know my perspective. There's been tales of this going on since the 70s, 60s, 40s. People, being abducted and telling their tales forever. Personally, I've told a few people in person before, worse people than anyone who's going to be seeing this here or the internet. And at the end of the day, it doesn't even matter. So I feel now's the time. Just tell my whole spiel, starting at the origin, which is with these aliens, and going to modern time to give you a better perspective of where I come from and how my mindset developed and why I believe the things that I do. But this is all about my aliens, and I haven't even got to the UFO stories and events yet, so that might have to be a separate video. I'm not sure how long I've been even talking. I'm sure it's been a while, so I might have to have my UFO stories in a separate video. Or maybe I can give a little preview of it, but this isn't really planned. I have no script. I'm all going from memory right now, so excuse me if the order is weird. But another early memory of mine now while I'm in school, this is school age, and I guess you can say now concept of aliens exists. Okay, so I'm in school and there's this one kid, I always found him to be quite annoying for some reason, maybe after this event, I don't know. He was a really loud, obnoxious, boy, maybe because we had the same name, that was a little obnoxious, and he was like the annoying version of me, maybe. I don't know, but I always found him annoying. Uh, I'm not going to mention his name here, though, but it wasn't the same as my first name. Anyways, we were in class. He was like, had his hands on his head and moving around. This is first grade, by the way. And so whatever age you are in first grade, I don't even know, but whatever age you're in first grade, he's first grade, he has his hands on his head, playing around, talking about, saying, I'm an alien, I'm an alien. And in me, instantly, when he says that, I'm like, you fool, you're no alien. What are you pretending for? I was like, I'm the alien, and you don't hear me telling everyone. Like, that's so weird. Like, when I think about that now, I'm like, well, that is strange. Why was that my initial thought? That other kid's playing and having fun, saying he's an alien and having antennas on his head, and instantly I feel offended and like disgusted, thinking like, you're no alien, stop pretending. He's like, I'm the alien, but you don't hear me telling anyone that. I don't know, I always found that to be weird. Another thing is, I do have a memory of me being on some type of craft. I don't want to say a spaceship because I don't know if it ever went into space or anything like that, but I do have a strange memory of me being on board this type of craft where I'm like walking around as like weird hazy-ish environment. I want to say like almost foggy because it's almost hard to remember, reddish type of lights. And I remember there being a few different grays and beings on there, and we spoke of a few different things, and they showed me things, but that I can hardly remember, and that's one of the events I hardly ever tell anyone I know in person. So that'll be a little bonus one for you. Again, okay, now when it comes to UFOs, I've seen UFOs forever. I would say the UFO activity has picked up, whereas and I haven't, you could say, seen an actual alien, whether it be a gray or a reptilian, for quite so many years. As far as UFOs, I've seen them. I can't count or tell you the times I've seen UFOs. There, at one point, it got so good that as if I thought about it, if I thought really strong, or even if I was just watching something that made me think of it, if I thought of a UFO, I can make one appear in the sky. Now, you might think, oh, that's just delusional. You thought about so much that you saw it or you wanted to see it. You saw a plane and you made it be a UFO. Well, you could think that if you want, but I do have witnesses. Back when I was working in the movie theaters, when I was like kind of fresh out of high school, high schoolish age, right before college, I was working in the movie theaters, kind of during college time too, but I was outside changing the marquees with this one guy. I just met him, but we were kind of similar interests, and we're talking. He's cool. He's a good. He's a friend, an old friend, I would say, co-worker friend. He's a friend now. Don't know how to classify him. Anyways, at the time I just met him, and we're changing the marquee, and I was telling him stories about UFOs and like, yeah, I've seen aliens and UFOs, and he's like, yeah, right, man, sure. You know how people are. But we're just talking about. I was like, yeah, dude, I haven't proved it before to somebody that if I think about a UFO hard enough, I can make one appear. And like as I was talking about that, guess what? A UFO came out of nowhere, came zipping across the sky, and behind it was like this weird jet, this fighter jet that was following it. And he almost freaked out. I was like, oh my goodness, dude, you see that? I was like, hey man, I told you it could happen. He was like, wow, that's crazy. Like, what are the odds that that actually happened? I was like, I said, if I talk about it or think about it enough, it can show up. So like, I've seen the flying saucer ones, the ones that look like discs. I've seen the cigar shape. I've seen the triangle looking ones, all in broad daylight before. I've seen a few of times where like a plane is chasing behind them, but I've seen it mostly where it's just a UFO, either early morning, midday, daylight flying around. Of course, I've seen them at night as well, but the majority of the sightings was during the day. Another time, back when I was in middle school, I would tell my mom I would always see a UFO like in the sky following the bus, like the route of the bus. There would be this UFO up in the sky, and to me, it was following me. I felt like it was just following me from the distance. And I'm like, I think they're just showing me that they're still there, and my mom, she was like an investigator type of question everything type of mindset back in the day, and she was like, okay. I'm gonna look. So he would be on the bus at this certain window, in the school day, and I'm gonna be outside looking in the skies to see if I can see this so-called UFO he's talking about. And yeah, she did. She ended up telling me that, oh my goodness, remember that UFO you told me that you could see? There was one there. So, not just me, other people, my brother has seen it, not stranger, but freshly met person, a friend has seen UFOs appear from me concentrating to make one appear. Who knows, maybe I'm just bending reality and making one appear because I want it to be, and maybe it's like a mass hypnosis, power of suggestion, so we just see a UFO because we want to see it. Or maybe that there's some strange connection, and if I think hard enough, they can appear. Now, to go back, I don't think I cut it. Yeah, I didn't cut it on this one, because the battery did die on the other one. But, the other story, now those are my personal stories and encounters with UFOs, aliens, extraterrestrials. I'm sure I could tell you more about UFOs, because like I said, I can't count the amount of times I've seen them, or tried to call them and they came. Not every time, they don't always come, but most of the time if I'm serious and thinking about it, or even if I get in the mood, like, yeah, aliens, or just watching like alien related media, I can get them to appear. At one point I thought that like at a certain time period they were just going to come and it was going to be time to go and I was going to leave if I wanted to leave, but obviously that never happened and I didn't leave, so I stayed. I didn't like have that option saying, hey, you can stay or you can go, because if I had that direct option, I probably definitely would have left. I still would leave because that would be a great experience. Why wouldn't you leave? But I did have a feeling like that for a long time, that eventually at one point they would come and give me an option that I could leave after I completed my mission, or maybe just give me an out. But that didn't happen. So for me, those are my personal. Yeah, I've been talking for quite some time. So those are my personal UFO and extraterrestrial stories. There are other stories that my family members have had that kind of correlate to this alien agenda, if that's what you want to call it. And I'll tell these stories now. I decided to tell at the end for the sake of cuts. So if it wouldn't be choppy, like, oh, why is he cutting it so many times? I like to just have a nice video, no cuts, not too many editing. Keep it more genuine and authentic. I could cut it so it speeds up the pauses and lengths of time in between talking, but we'll just leave it as it is. And I'll end it with the stories of other people who kind of correlate into mine, because it does involve me, even though it wasn't personally to me. And we'll see. And because those are not my personal events and stories, if I talk to the individuals and they tell me, hey, don't be sharing that because they don't feel comfortable, then that's where the video will cut, and maybe I'll say a few things and end the video, or maybe it'll just cut there. Anyways, okay, so the other events is back when I was a baby, so I don't know. I only know the things that happened to me. These next stories are what was told to me back from when we were correlating and like everyone was telling their events and stories, and like, oh, okay, I'm not the only one, so maybe I'll tell them. People are, usually strength in numbers, and when you realize that you're not the only one, you may feel more comfortable to share your event. So back when I was a baby, my mom was in the room, and I was laying in the bassinet. My father was downstairs, and she said she could hear someone was in the hallway, and thought she saw someone peek in. At first she maybe thought it was my dad playing a joke on her or trying to get her attention, but she realized that he was downstairs. How she knows he was downstairs? It was because she could hear him channel surfing, just flipping through the channels, because I guess that's what people did back in the day. They just flipped through the channels. So I guess heard it clear. She heard him clear his throat or something, flipping through channels, so she knew he was downstairs. Meanwhile, she thought she saw something in her peripheral look into the bedroom. Tom laying in the bassinet. She's like, okay, what is this? Every time she goes to look over, it would be gone. So a minute in her peripheral, she sees something peeking in the room. She goes to look, and then it pulls back. It's gone. So she's like, okay, I see your game. I'm going to get the timing of this. And on 3, and she's thinking, next time this happens, I'm going to fake it out. So she was like steadily looking. It would move its head back. Look, it would move its head back. And next time she looked and like switched up her timing, and she caught this thing. She caught it looking around the corner like this, and it was a gray. Some weird old looking grayish type thing. A gray alien, what you know as a grays, was peeking in the room. She was like, oh, she got taken back by it. And at the time, she didn't tell anyone because she just freshly had me, so she didn't want people to say, oh, it's just your hormones of just out of whack of having a kid and you're hallucinating or crazy. She didn't want the ridicule, so she didn't tell the story until years later, like I said. And she didn't have me in my room. Past the hallway where this thing was looking and would have been where I was laying in my crib, but instead she had a feeling to have me in the bassinet, and she said she didn't want to put me, she picked me up and was holding me and didn't want to put me down because she felt like that could have been a distraction. While that thing in the hallway is distracting her, something else could have picked me up and took me away. And she said she had a feeling not to go put me in that room, or she might never, see me again. Who knows why she had that feeling? Maybe just being a protective mother, or maybe just being in tune because she had a decent intuition, back in the day. So maybe she's feeling like if she put me in there, that they would take me. Who knows? As you heard from the other stories, they were clearly watching me. So maybe that's where it began, or maybe it was sooner. Also, another event that kind of ties into like the family having weird things. And the reason why I'm telling these is because they deal with me. My father had a similar story back when he was sleeping. He had two standing at the foot of his bed. One was older and one was younger, both of them gray, and it's strange that you can even see, I guess, age, but that's what we were told. Okay, so don't know why these aliens, these grays and reptilian was watching me. I'm not claiming anything, okay, so you can tell me your theories, what you think in the comments below. You can message me, give me your insight. This was Tell-All Vlog 001, my alien and UFO encounters. I'm not sure what story and event I'll tell next, but I will be telling you about spirits, demons, ghosts, possessions, visitations, watchers, monitors, the list will go on. Like I said, this is the Tell-All Vlog series, and this was the alien encounter and UFOs. I'm sure I'll probably remember other things, but those are the main events that stood out in my mind. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good day. Thanks for watching. See ya.